She was known as the Dictator of Washington, D.C., and like any dictator worth their weight in diamonds, she had a palatial mansion to rival the White House itself. Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. This video is brought to you in part by Victorian Society in America. More on them later. In 1854, Mary Tracy Scott was born in Erie, Pennsylvania into extraordinary privilege. Her father, Colonel William Scott, was a self-made industrialist who struck it rich in 19th century America's booming industries. He built a diversified empire in shipping, coal mining, iron manufacturing, banking, and railroads. At the time of his passing in 1891, his fortune was estimated in the millions, equivalent to hundreds of millions today, all of it left to his family. Mary and her sister Annie thus grew up as heiresses to this massive fortune, truly born into the Gilded Age's upper crust. Mary Scott married Richard H. Townsend, a Philadelphian who himself had a successful career in railroads. This alliance not only joined two great fortunes, but also solidified Mary's status as a leading social figure. By 1898, Mary and Richard had set their sights on a prestigious address in DC's newest fashionable neighborhood, DuPont Circle. They purchased the former mansion of Curtis Hillier, a prominent corner lot where Massachusetts, Florida, and Q Street intersect, a location that would later be dubbed Embassy Row for its array of grand residences. Designing the new mansion, however, came with one quirky stipulation from Mary. As a girl, she had heard a haunting fortune. A mystic foretold that if Mary ever slept under a brand new roof, she would die within the year. The superstition reportedly terrified her well into adulthood, so when planning the DuPont Circle house, Mary insisted that part of the old Hillier structure must remain incorporated in the new construction, thereby ensuring she wouldn't technically be living under an entirely new roof. It was an unusual request, but not unheard of in that era of spiritualism and omens. The Townsend's architects, the esteemed Creran Hastings, obliged Mary's superstitious wish. They left a portion of the original foundation and walls in place, building the new mansion around it. Thus Mary could comfort herself that her new home wasn't completely new. Mary instructed Creran Hastings to model the mansion in the style of the Petit Trianon, the petite neoclassical palace of Marie Antoinette at Versailles. In effect, Mary wanted a French palace of her own in Washington. Creran Hastings delivered. They devised a limestone-clad masterpiece that exuded French elegance and Baroque detail. The new Townsend house kept the general outline of the old Hillier house at its core, including a mansard roof in the Second Empire style, which became the hidden central block, but expanded enormously in every direction. They stripped off the outdated Victorian ornamentation and refaced the exteriors with creamy Indiana limestone, adding classical French Louis XV motifs, columns, pilasters, carved garlands, and scrollwork reminiscent of a Parisian chateau. The front entrance was reimagined with a street-level doorway adorned by an elegant iron and glass canopy to shelter arriving guests in style. Before we head inside, a quick word about the sponsor of today's video, Victorian Society in America. Are you captivated by historic architecture? Want to explore, learn, and dive even deeper into the past? With the Victorian Society in America, you'll have the chance to travel to American cities and tour stunning 19th century buildings, pursue learning through internationally acclaimed summer programs in American cities and abroad, including Chicago, Newport, and London to name a few. Additionally, members will enjoy a free subscription to 19th Century, the semi-annual publication packed with articles on art, architecture, preservation awards, and book reviews. Visit the website below in the video description and become part of the Victorian Society in America today. Thank you, Victorian Society in America, for sponsoring today's video. Now back to our tour. Entering the mansion, we step into the main hall on the ground floor, clad floor-to-ceiling in creamy Kenstone with white marble floor tiles glistening below. To one end, we see the massive Kenstone fireplace protruding from the carved stone walls, and we can really begin to get a sense for the level of craftsmanship that went into carving each delicate detail. To the other end, visiting guests would be escorted to the reception room, finished out with silk damask wall treatments set between Ionic pilasters and the room filled with family portraits. From here we'll pass back into the main hall, walking over antique Persian rugs and past potted palms until we see the grand staircase. As we continue forward, we get a good look at the heavy striation of the column's marble, and I'll also point out that the grand staircase is carved from solid Kenstone as well. We can now continue to the landing, looking back one last time before we head up to the main level. At the second floor's landing, we step out across parquet floors into the wood-paneled lobby where gilded accents seem to glow in the sun's rays. This is the decadent foyer hall, where most of the mansion's public rooms are arranged from, following the footprint of the old house that is buried beneath layers of artistry. We'll head first towards the rear of the house, swinging open heavy wood doors to reveal the dining room. The walls are clad in rich wood with gilded accents all around, and framed between the pilasters are a deep red brocade. All of the furniture is carved oak and gilded with velour de Jean so as to match the architectural elements of the room. In the proverbial cherry on top is a deep red marble fireplace mantel resting below a portrait of Mary and her daughter. As we turn around, we see the buffet mirroring the fireplace and crafted from that same deep red marble. Let's continue through the doors. After passing through the foyer hall, we continue towards the front of the house to find the library. This room is finished out with French walnut, from the coffered ceilings to the glass pane bookcases skirting the walls. As we stop to look at the fireplace, I'll continue to fill out the picture for you, noting that the fabrics used on the furnishings are all in shades of green. Even the curtains are of green brocatelle. As we begin our journey towards the mansion's other wing, we'll pass through a series of salons. But of special note is the second salon we encounter, the Grand Salon, finished out in the style of Louis XV. From the incredible plasterwork following the cove ceiling to the carved figures guarding each doorway and the wainscoting supporting silver and gold brocatelle, this room was fit for entertaining royalty. Let's now head around the gilt screen to find the doorway on the side of the fireplace and continue through. Here we find the largest room in the house, that being the Louis XV ballroom. The architraves enclose massive rounded mirrors, reflecting the light of the crystal chandelier across the perfectly polished parquet floors. Above us, the ceiling is composed of a central dome supported by two lower panels, all finished out with light pastels overwhelmed by creams and blushes between gilded accents. Mary's debut in her new mansion was a triumph. By the early 1900s, DuPont Circle had become the social epicenter of Washington's wealthy Purvenas, and the Townsend house was one of its crown jewels. Standing along Millionaire's Row, the Limestone Palace immediately began hosting diplomatic receptions, costume balls, and musicales that filled newspaper society pages. In January 1901, for example, Mary held an extravagant housewarming ball that drew the capital's elite, a display of power and hospitality aimed at silencing any remaining doubters of her social stature, earning her the nickname, the Dictator of Washington, D.C.'s high society. Even President Theodore Roosevelt's daughter, Alice, was a frequent attendee of Townsend parties, further cementing the Townsend social standing. Fate, however, dealt Mary a cruel blow just as her dreams were realized. In November 1902, only about a year after the mansion's completion, Richard Townsend passed suddenly in a riding accident. At age 48, Mary was left a widow with a young daughter to raise and a brand new 40-room mansion to manage on her own. Many women in her position might have retired from the social scene in mourning, but not Mary. After a period of seclusion, Mary Scott Townsend forged ahead undeterred, continuing to host and live life at full throttle in honor of her home's intended purpose. Throughout the 1900s and 1910s, Townsend House saw a continuous whirl of activity. Diplomats, generals, magnates, and artists all graced Mary's guest list. She had achieved her goal of becoming the preeminent hostess of unofficial society, eclipsing even her friendly rival, Mrs. Mary Leiter, who had been the previous leader of the Millionaire Circle. Over time, Mary's health began to decline, and with it, her appetite for grand gatherings. In 1931, she passed away at the age of 76. By the 1940s, the once luxurious mansion found alternative uses. During World War II, empty mansions in DC were often repurposed for the war effort, and Townsend House was no exception. From 1941 to 1942, part of the estate's carriage house and stables were lent to the American Women's Volunteer Service, who ran a canteen there for soldiers and war workers. In January 1950, the prestigious Cosmos Club agreed to purchase Townsend House for about $365,000. Club members fondly noted the coincidence that John M. Carrere, one of the house's original architects, had himself been a Cosmos Club member. After some renovation, including modernizing the facilities and adding a wing in the early 1960s, the Cosmos Club took up residence at Townsend House, and they have remained there ever since, lovingly preserving much of the home's historic character. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Which room was your favorite? Let me know down below in the comments section. I'd also like to say a special thank you to Victorian Society in America for sponsoring this video. Check out the link in the video description to find out how you can get involved today. As always, thank you all for watching, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.